At the very end of Deuteronomy, Moses does the last thing he will ever do. He blesses the tribes of Israel, one, by name. Here they are: Benjamin, Joseph, Zebulun, Issachar, Gad, Dan, Naphtali, Asher, Reuben, Levi, Judah. Count them. 11. Simeon isn't there. Moses blesses the tribes of Israel, and one of them is missing, and it's the last official act of his life, and nobody ever mentions it, because everybody's too busy talking about the other tribe that goes missing later in Revelation. Now, that's not an error. Nobody forgot Simeon, and once you see why he's not there, the whole list changes shape in your hands. There's one more thing. Somewhere in this family, there's a child who gets a name and no reason at all. Everyone else gets an explanation. This one gets silence. Hold on to that. We're coming back to it, and it's the reason I made this. You might reasonably ask why a missing name is worth half an hour. Here's why. The 12 tribes get taught as a family tree. 12 sons, 12 tribes, 1 man, done. It's the most memorized list in the Old Testament. It's on charts and in the back of study Bibles and in every children's curriculum ever printed. And if the lists themselves don't agree on who's in it, then it was never a family tree. It's something else. And the something else is better. Before we go near the Hebrew, I want to say who this turns out to be about. This list gets used for belonging. Find your tribe. Know your place. Everyone has a slot. Everyone fits somewhere. Here's the chart. And if you've ever been in a family or a church or a workplace where you were technically included, nobody excluded you, your name was on the thing, and you still could not have told anyone what your actual slot was, where you were on the list, and also, somehow, not on it. Hold on to that feeling. It turns out to be who this is about. 12 is not a count. It's a shape. And the text keeps refitting people into it. And I want to say the other half of that right now, because if I hide it, you should stop trusting me. This is not a debunk. The famous reading of these names, that they're the recorded speech of women nobody wanted, that they're prayers rather than labels, that reading is right. It's right about the feeling. It's just wrong about the mechanism. And the real mechanism is better. So look at the machine. And you can check every bit of this yourself in 2 open tabs in about 4 minutes. I'd rather you did. Genesis 49. Jacob, dying, blesses his sons. Joseph is 1 tribe. Levi is in. Now go to Numbers chapter 1. This is the census. God tells Moses to count the fighting men, tribe by tribe. And Levi is gone. Not demoted, not mentioned in passing. Gone from the count. And Joseph has become 2, Ephraim and Manasseh, listed separately, each one a full tribe with its own number. So between Genesis and Numbers, 2 things happened that nobody announces: a tribe left and a tribe divided. Now, Deuteronomy 33, the one we opened on, Moses, at the end of everything, blessing them by name. Levi is back. Joseph is 1 again. And Simeon, who was there in Genesis, who was there in Numbers, who is the second son Leah ever bore, is not in it. And then Revelation 7, the last list in the Bible, sealed from every tribe, and John names them. Dan is gone. Levi is back in. Levi, who's been out of the land lists since Numbers. And Joseph appears in place of Ephraim, alongside Manasseh, which is an arrangement that appears nowhere else, not Genesis, not Numbers, not Deuteronomy, a 4th configuration in the last book of the Bible. So, 4 lists. 4 different memberships. Genesis has a Joseph and a Levi. Numbers has no Levi and 2 Josephs. Deuteronomy has no Simeon. Revelation has no Dan and a Joseph standing where Ephraim should be. And every single one of them totals 12. Not 11, not 13, not once. Now, the machine has a lever, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. The number 12 is maintained. That's the word, maintained. It's held there, and it's held by one of 2 moves: leave Levi out or split Joseph in 2. And the reason is almost bureaucratic. Levi got no land. That's it. That's the whole thing. The tribe of Levi received no territorial allotment, 6 cities of refuge to administer, and not 1 square mile to call theirs. So when a list is a land list, who gets what? Draw the map. There's no slot for Levi. There's nothing to put in the column. And the moment Levi comes out, the total drops to 11, so Joseph splits in 2 to fill the gap. His sons Ephraim and Manasseh, by his Egyptian wife Asenath, get promoted to full tribes in their own right. Take Levi out, put Joseph's boys in, 12. Put Levi back, fold Joseph's boys back into their father, 12. It's a filing system. And I find that more interesting than the mystery, not less. Now here I have to give you the other side, because it's real, and it's serious, and it goes further than I'm willing to. Some scholars think 12 was never a head count at all. Max Weber and Ronald Glassman argued there never was a fixed number of tribes. Norman Gottwald argued that the 12-tribe division originated as an administrative scheme under King David, not a family, a filing system from the start. Arthur Peake read the tribes as an origin story told through eponymous ancestors, the nation explaining itself backwards through named forefathers. And Emmanuel Louis noted the biblical habit of representing whole clans as single persons. That's a real argument by real scholars, and I'm not qualified to settle it for you, and I'm not going to pretend I am. And I want to be careful about how I hand it to you, because this is the part of a video like this where somebody always overreaches. Gottwald saying the 12-tribe system looks administrative is not the same as Gottwald saying the people didn't exist. Weber and Glassman saying there was never a fixed number is not the same as saying there was never a nation. These are arguments about how a list came together, made by people who spent their lives on the question, and there are serious scholars on the other side of every one of them. And notice something. None of this depends on it. The lists disagree either way. Whether these tribes descend from one man in a tent or not, Deuteronomy is still missing Simeon and Revelation is still missing Dan. That's just what's on the pages. So now the part everybody loves, and they're right to love it. The names. Leah is the wife Jacob didn't choose. Her own father handed her over in the dark on a wedding night meant for her sister, and Jacob woke up married to her. And she has 4 sons. And at each one, she says out loud what she's feeling. Not what she believes, not what the theology is, what she's feeling in that room, holding that baby. The first one is Reuben. And she says, God has seen my affliction. Sit with the word she picks, affliction, not disappointment, not sadness. Affliction is what you call it when something is being done to you and you cannot stop it. And then she adds the part that gives the whole thing away. Now, surely, my husband will love me. She thinks the baby will fix it. The second one is Simeon. And she says, God has heard that I am unloved. Read that again. Not, I feel unloved. She's not describing a mood. She's stating a fact about her situation, the way you'd state the weather. It is a settled matter in that house, and everybody knows it, and she says it out loud to a newborn. And notice what's happened between the two. The first name is about being seen. The second is about being heard. She's not repeating herself. She's moving, because being seen didn't work, so maybe being heard will. The third one is Levi. And she says, now, this time, my husband will be attached to me, because I've borne him 3 sons. 3. She's counting. She has started keeping score with her own children, and she's saying so, and the text just lets her say it without a word of comment. And here's what makes that one land like a stone. Levi's descendants do become attached, permanently, professionally, for the rest of the story. Just not to Jacob. They get attached to God. The tribe of priests comes out of a woman begging a man to come closer. And then the fourth one is Judah. And something changes. This time she says, I will praise the Lord. That's it. There's no request in it. Nothing about her husband. Nothing about being loved or seen or attached or scored. For the first time in 4 births, there is nobody in the sentence except her and God. That is moving. I'm not going to pretend it isn't. It's one of the most human things in the entire book. A woman in an impossible marriage, saying the quiet part out loud 4 times, into a room where nobody is listening. But here's what's actually happening in that Hebrew, and it's not what you've been told. These aren't etymologies, they're puns. Hebrew name explanations work by agreement of sound. The name sounds like the word, and the sound is the whole connection, whether or not the 2 words have anything to do with each other linguistically. Scholars call it paronomasia, say it paronomasia, or more bluntly, folk etymology. Richard Hess, Earl S. Callan Professor of Old Testament and Semitic Languages at Denver Seminary, states the principle like this. The origins of the name itself have nothing to do with the verb, but the similar sound creates a wordplay that explains the background of the name. Now, I need to be straight with you about that quote. Hess is writing about Genesis chapters 1 to 11. He isn't talking about Leah's sons, so I'm extending his principle to them, not quoting his verdict on them, and you should know exactly which of those I'm doing. But the cleanest proof is the father himself. Jacob. You've been told what it means. Heel grabber. He came out of the womb holding his brother's heel, and the Hebrew word for heel is akev, and there it is, right there in the story. Except that's the folk etymology. The name Yaakov probably comes from a Semitic root that means to protect. Think about that for a second. The most famous name meaning in the book of Genesis, the one an entire character is built on, the grabber, the supplanter, the man who takes what isn't his by the heel, is soundplay. Before we get anywhere near his sons, the father's own name doesn't mean what you were told, and it's not an isolated case. Eve explains Seth's name in a way that suggests it comes from a verb meaning to place, to put, and there may be no etymological connection at all, simply paronomasia. Noah blesses Japheth by asking God to enlarge him, and the Hebrew verb for enlarging is yaft, which sounds like Japheth, and that's the connection. That's all of it. Genesis is full of this. It's not a bug in the book. And now stay with me, because if you think this is going where these videos usually go, it isn't. It's the opposite. This is not the Bible getting its own language wrong. The narrator isn't doing lexicography. He's not making a claim about Semitic roots that later turned out to be false. That's not the game he's playing, and it never was. He's telling you what a woman said in a room, and he's preserving her pun, deliberately, carefully, because the pun is what she actually did with the name. She heard her son's name, and she heard her own life in the sound of it. A derivation would be a footnote. A pun is a person, which means the emotional reading of these names isn't just defensible, it's the only reading there is. They were never information. They were always speech. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe. It's what every video here does. One word, followed all the way down to wherever it actually goes. And there's one more thing underneath all of it, and it changes what Leah is doing. Gerhard von Rad pointed out something about the ancient world. Name-giving, in the ancient Near East, was primarily an exercise of sovereignty, of command. It's what a superior does to an inferior. You name your children, you name your animals, you name what belongs to you. It runs downhill, always, from the one with power to the one without. Now look at Leah. She has power over nothing. Not her marriage. She was handed over in the dark and didn't choose any of it. Not her husband's affection. The text says so plainly and repeatedly, and it does not soften it. Not her father, who used her as the price of a longer contract. She has authority over precisely one thing in her entire life. One. She gets to say what the children are called. That's it. That's her whole portfolio. In a world where naming is what the powerful do to the powerless, the least powerful adult in that household is holding the one instrument of sovereignty that nobody thought to take off her. Probably because nobody thought it was worth taking, and she uses it 4 times. And 4 tribes of Israel come out of it: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, a quarter of the nation, named by a woman whose own husband would not look at her. The priesthood comes out of the 3rd one. The kings come out of the 4th one, and so does the Messiah. Think about the arithmetic of that for a second. Every single time somebody says the word Judah, Every king, every prophet, every gospel writer, every person alive today who calls themselves a Jew, they are using a word that a rejected woman chose in a room on a bad night because she had run out of ways to ask. The only power she had was naming, and it built a nation. And here's what I keep turning over. Von Rad's point is that naming runs downhill. The strong name the weak. That's the rule. Except the rule has a hole in it, and the hole is this: the thing you name outlives you. Jacob had the power in that marriage. Laban had the power in that family. Neither of them named anything that lasted. Laban's cleverness got him a son-in-law on a longer contract. Jacob's preference got him a favorite wife and a wrecked household. Leah got the map of Israel. And it isn't the only time Genesis does this. 13 chapters earlier, another woman with no standing at all, Hagar, a slave, running, is told to name her son Ishmael because God has heard her affliction. The powerless women of Genesis are the ones doing the naming. Now the tribe everybody does talk about. Dan, named for justice. And the story is worse than you've heard. Judges 17 and 18. The tribe of Dan takes a carved image from a man named Micah. They conquer a town called Laish, and they set the idol up at the founding of their new city. And the text says they appointed as their priest a man named Jonathan, son of Gershom, son of Moses, the lawgiver's own grandson, minding a shrine. Now, careful. Some manuscripts read son of Manasseh there instead of son of Moses, and that variant is widely understood as a later softening by someone who couldn't bear the sentence. I'm telling you what the text says, and I'm telling you the variant exists, and I'm not going to pick for you. And then, centuries later, when Jeroboam splits the kingdom, he needs to stop his people walking south to Jerusalem to worship. So, he makes 2 golden calves. He puts one in Bethel, and he puts the other one in Dan. Not a random town. The one place in the country that already had a shrine and a priesthood and a long habit. He didn't build idolatry in Dan. He found it there and plugged into it. And then, history does what history does. Around 931 BC, the kingdom splits in 2. In 722 BC, Assyria takes the northern kingdom and deports the population, and 10 tribes stop existing as tribes. In 586 BC, Babylon takes Judah. The family that was so carefully counted to 12 gets scattered across empires that could not possibly care less how the list was arranged. So, line them up. Genesis 49, Joseph 1, Levi in. Numbers 1, Levi out, Joseph 2. Deuteronomy 33, Simeon gone. Revelation 7, Dan gone, Levi back, Joseph in place of Ephraim. 4 lists, 4 memberships, always 12. Which means the number isn't reporting anything. It's insisting on something. Which is why Revelation 7 isn't the mystery everyone treats it as. Dan is missing from the sealed, and people have built entire theories on that absence, whole systems. But look at what else that list does. It puts Levi back in, Levi, who's been out of the land lists since Numbers. And it lists Joseph in place of Ephraim, sitting alongside Manasseh, which is a third arrangement again, matching neither Genesis nor Numbers. That's not an anomaly. That's the same move the text has been making for 40 chapters. The number holds, the names rotate. And then there's Ezekiel 48, describing the gates of the city, naming them for the tribes. Dan has a gate. Whatever the omission in Revelation meant, and the text never says, it wasn't the last word. Here's the picture I can't get out of my head. Somebody in your family built a table, or bought one decades ago, and it seats 12. That's what it is. It's a 12-seat table. That number is a fact about the furniture, and it has never once changed. But the people in the chairs change every single year. Somebody dies. Somebody marries in and brings a person nobody's met. A baby arrives and needs a cushion on a chair. A cousin stops coming and nobody quite says why. And there's a year where everyone notices the gap and nobody mentions it. And then the year after that, somebody new is sitting there. Pull out the photographs from 30 Christmases at that table. No two of them show the same 12 people. Not one single pair matches. 30 years, 12 chairs, and the membership is different in every single frame. And you would never, ever say the table was wrong. You'd never look at the 1994 photo and the 2011 photo and conclude that somebody miscounted. You'd never say the table has a continuity error. That's not what a table is. The table isn't a head count. It's a promise about how many places there will always be. And that's the thing about a number that gets maintained instead of counted. A count tells you what happened. A promise tells you what's held open. 12 tribes, in a book where the tribes keep changing, is not the author losing track of his own cast. It's somebody refusing to let the number go down. So come back to the thing I asked you to hold at the start. The list you were taught to find yourself in was never a fixed roster. It was a shape with room kept in it. Simeon drops out of Moses' blessing and he's back by revelation. Levi has no land at all and gets a place at the end anyway. Dan gets deleted from one list and has a gate in another. Nobody on this list is on it because their paperwork was in order. Here's what stays with me. It's Leah on the fourth one. Because look at the first three. See me, hear me, come close to me. Every one of them is reaching. Every one of them is aimed at a man who is not coming. She names 3 children, and every name is a request. And then on the fourth, something goes quiet. This time she says, I will praise the Lord. And then the text says something you could read past 100 times. And she stopped bearing. She stopped. She stopped asking. And the tribe that came out of the one where she stopped asking is the tribe the kings come from, and the Messiah, and the name the whole people still carry, Jew, from Judah. All of it, out of the moment a woman nobody chose stopped asking to be chosen. And now the thing I asked you to hold at the very start. The child who gets a name and no reason.
Genesis chapter 30, verse 21.
Here's the whole verse, word for word, straight out of the Hebrew. And afterward she bore a daughter, and she called her name Dinah. That's it. 7 words. Every one of her brothers gets his mother's voice explaining who he is and what she felt when she looked at him. God has seen me. God has heard me. Now he'll be attached to me. This time I'll praise him. The daughter gets a name and silence. The verb is even the same one, kata. She called her name Dinah, the identical word used for every one of the boys. What's missing isn't the naming, it's everything after it. And she's the only daughter named in the whole family. She's not a footnote in the sense of being absent. She's right there. She has a name. She has an entire chapter of her own later, and it is one of the worst chapters in the Bible. Her descendants were never recognized as a tribe. There is no gate with her name on it in Ezekiel, and there never was. There are none sealed from Dinah in Revelation. She's in the family. She's not on the list. Which, if you were holding on to that feeling from earlier, the room where you're technically included and could not tell anyone what your slot is a shape you might already know. And here's the part I genuinely cannot let go of. People fill it in. Go and look. Go and search her name right now. You'll be told Dinah means judgment or vindicated. It's everywhere. It's in the videos and the study notes and the sermons and the baby name sites, stated with total confidence, usually in a sentence that begins, her name means. The text doesn't say that. Nobody in Genesis says what her name means. Her mother, who had something to say about all 6 of her sons, says nothing at all about her daughter, or if she did, it wasn't kept. Somebody supplied it later, because the silence was unbearable. And I understand the impulse completely. I felt it in this very script. There's a hole in the page where an explanation should be, and every instinct you have says fill it, and the filling is always so plausible, and it's always so kind. Which is exactly, precisely, the thing this whole video has been about. We cannot leave a name alone. We couldn't do it with Jacob. We couldn't do it with Reuben. We can't do it with her. So here's the list, the real one. The tribe Moses didn't bless. The tribe with no land and 6 cities to look after. The tribe that split in 2 to fill the hole the first one left. The tribe named Justice that hired the lawgiver's grandson to mind an idol. The tribe Revelation deleted and Ezekiel gave a gate to anyway. The name that means heal and probably means protect. The 4 names a woman said out loud in a room where nobody was listening. And the daughter who got 7 words. If that's what you want more of, subscribe. One detail, all the way down, wherever it actually goes. And here's where I'll leave you. 12 was never a roster you had to qualify for. It's the number of places the table was built with. And that table has outlasted every empire that ever scattered the people who were supposed to be sitting at it. There's a chair. There was always going to be a chair, even for the one nobody explained.